Welcome to Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where you get unconventional insights into retirement and lifestyle design that actually work. You don't have to settle for the same tired Wall Street advice. Break away from the herd and learn how to achieve the retirement lifestyle of your dreams. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio podcast. If you haven't been here before, welcome. This is actually a reboot reset of episode 91. I went to actually publish episode 91 and had a technical malfunction. Well, essentially it was user malfunction. So for those of you who are regular listeners to the show, I apologize for the late release of episode 91 when the episode went to be published. Somehow, after compression and all of the various different pieces that happen when you get the show ready, it was a tiny little short snippet of the full-length podcast. So I'm not sure exactly what happened, but my apologies to those regular listeners of the show. If you're brand new, we are broadcasting, and I say we, it's just me today in the studio, which is here in Norco, California, Horsetown, USA, in my workshop. I'm Kraig Strom. I am the income engineer. I am a certified financial planning professional. My specialty is retirement income design. Retirement income is a conversation, unfortunately, that is not in the foremost priority with most financial advisory discussions. It's all about accumulation. So what makes this show different, what makes me and my specialty different is I tie together both the accumulation, the asset growth and gathering side of the retirement journey with the income side of the retirement conversation. That's what this show is all about. It's all about optimizing retirement income. And it does not happen with a product. Retirement income maximization, that's a big word, doesn't happen with a product. So life insurance. If you've been told that life insurance is the answer to retirement, and you hear, I was listening to a guy who's on the radio all the time this weekend. I listen to these financial shows and I read all this stuff so I can be prepared for what you might be hearing out there. But my goodness, you listen to this guy who's on the radio from the East Coast to the West Coast, and he'll tell you, and he tells you all the time, that this certain kind of life insurance is the answer to retirement. Well, I disagree. I respectfully, I loudly, energetically disagree. While I am a huge fan of cash value life insurance, it is not the answer to retirement. It isn't. But I'm also the one to tell you that mutual funds, real estate, annuities, stocks, bonds, none of them by themselves will help you optimize for maximum retirement income. You have to have an integrated approach, a balanced approach, where your life insurance assets work in conjunction with your business or investment assets, giving you access to things like annuity income, giving you security in down markets so that you have things that are not correlated to the ups and downs of the market. But unless you have the right ratios, unless you truly understand how to design an income plan and literally design or engineer all of your assets and pieces to work together so that they will optimize each other, they will allow you to get the most out of all of that work and savings. And my show is meant to give you hope for retirement. So if you've been out there having conversations with financial advisors, or you've been researching things online, you might have gotten a bit discouraged when you hear things like the 4% rule. What is the 4% rule? If you don't know what it is, you might want to pull your car over or park the bike you're on or stop running, because you might get kind of upset. You might stagger a little bit when you understand what the 4% rule is. Here it is in a nutshell. I'll use an actual recent client example of the 4% rule conversation. Okay. So this husband and wife have been saving for retirement, and they are looking 5 years down the road. They want to officially retire. Now, that's great. Now, what they did is they went in and talked to their financial advisor that they've been investing money with for a long time, and they asked, hey, we're getting ready to retire in 5 years. How much income can we plan on? We want to go on trips, and we've got some pretty cool stuff planned for our retirement. Well, the financial advisor then said, well, let's run some Monte Carlo simulations, and let's see how things look with the 4% rule. These folks said, what? What are you talking about? We have about $2 million that's going to be saved up by the time we get to 5 years from now. We just want to know generally, well, how much income can we plan on? We were thinking, somewhere around X or Y. Well, their financial advisor said, when it comes to income, we use this thing called a Monte Carlo income simulation, and we generally follow the 4% rule that says you should plan on taking out about 4% of your retirement money when you start your retirement. And if we use the Monte Carlo simulation, which is a software program, by the way, that financial advisors will use to figure out the probability of success or failure in an income plan. Now, 4% rule, and they said, whoa, hold on a second. If we had $2 million saved up for retirement, are you saying that we shouldn't take out more than $80,000 to start our retirement? Well, yes, that's what the 4% rule suggests. This couple was shocked, absolutely shocked, because if you can imagine someone, a husband and wife, who've been able to diligently work hard and save up $2 million, they probably don't live on $80,000 a year in income, right? No. They live on together more like $180,000 a year in income. And here's their financial advisor telling them something they've never heard before. When you retire, you should maybe plan on taking only about $80,000 a year from your retirement assets. Their response was, that's not enough to maintain or to have the lifestyle that we expected. Well, based on the Monte Carlo simulation, your probability of success, and FYI, success means not dying broke, your probabilities of success if you took out more than 5 or 6%, well, your probability of success drops down to maybe 60 or 70%, meaning that you have a 30 to 40% chance that one of you would die broke. Okay? This is the conversation. If you have not had that conversation yet, number one, I just gave you the heads up. If you have never met someone like me that specializes in maximizing your retirement income, then this is the conversation that you are on track for. You are on track for a Monte Carlo income simulation 4% rule kick in the stomach. And I'm here to tell you that Personal Pension Radio and Kraig Strom, me, the income engineer, I am all about helping you avoid that conversation. This show is meant to give you hope for retirement. Turn the light back on at the end of that retirement tunnel. You've got to give me a chance. Give me a call. Go to Personal Pension Radio. Email me. Call me. Connect. Get your own retirement income analysis done so you know what you're on track for, and you will also know what you could be on track for if you simply made some basic changes in how you're getting ready for retirement. Some basic changes, by the way, for this couple that I just described, their new direction, right? So they heard from their investment advisor 4% and Monte Carlo simulation, and they were shocked. Now, thankfully, they also found me through one of their advisors. Their attorney introduced them to me. And we sat down and looked at all of their assets and all of their resources and realized that if they made some basic changes with how they save and how they have their assets positioned, that we can go from an income number of, instead of $80,000 a year, we can go to an income number that's closer to $140,000 a year without adding any risk. Without adding risk, without them sacrificing, now they have something to look forward to. And if you want that kind of benefit, you've got to take the next step. You have to be the one to reach out, contact me. That's my specialty, is making you smile when it comes to your retirement income plans. You're going to love it. Now, onward. My disclosure. I like to give a little disclosure up front in the beginning of my episodes here for a couple of different reasons, but primarily just to let you know that I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I am a certified financial planning professional. Even though I'm a CFP, which I would suggest to you that if you're looking for a financial advisor, look for someone that has achieved the CFP rank, because that's somebody that's worked really hard and has been dedicated to their trade. But please, even though I am a CFP, please do not act on things that you hear on this show. This show is meant to inspire you, to motivate you to take action, but not meant to give you advice. And especially, please do not act on things that you hear from financial entertainers on the radio or on podcasts. These are folks who are unlicensed, unregulated. They give out sometimes good, solid, general advice, and unfortunately, mingled in and mixed in amongst that good general advice sometimes is horrible financial advice. My opinion, by the way, horrible financial advice mixed in with all this good general advice, and it's largely because there is no one watching over those financial entertainers to regulate what they say. They basically say whatever the heck they want, and there's nobody out there protecting you, the listener. So please work with a qualified financial advisor, someone who has your best interest in mind, and someone who gets to know you in detail. That's the only time that you should be getting any kind of recommendations. So let me jump in. My first segment I call Watch Your Step. Watch Your Step, for those of you who haven't heard the show before, it comes from my thinking back to when I was a kid, back in Maine, where I grew up. I spent a lot of time out in the woods and out on the farm and various other places, just in a very rural upbringing. And you had to often be very careful about where you were stepping because you didn't know what you were going to step in. So this segment is my commitment to you to be out there just reading and listening and absorbing all of this content as much as I can that's out there flying at us left and right every day. With the 24-hour news cycle and 5 million different news outlets and financial blogs and websites, content is never a problem. There's lots and lots of content. My goal is to help you read and absorb that content from the right frame of mind, from the right perspective, okay? And so I'll pick out articles and things that catch my eye. So I was reading earlier in the last week, and I don't remember where I saw this, but I remember the headline. The headline was, Investing in Multi-Unit Housing for Retirement Income. Okay, investing in multi-unit housing for retirement income. Now, that sounds all well and good, but the article itself was very positively slanted in regards to investing in real estate. Now, for the record, I am a big fan of real estate. I think real estate investing for income and long-term growth is phenomenal. I think real estate is one of the best investments there is, because think about it. What other investment can you buy with government-sanctioned, tax-deductible debt? There's nothing. There's nothing that you can get that is like a packaged investment that you can buy with a government-sanctioned FHA loan, right? I mean, real estate's awesome. With that said, let's go back to this article headline. Investing in multi-unit housing for retirement income. So when you think about income, right? When you think about income, which income do you want in retirement? Do you want risky income in retirement? Do you want uncertain income in retirement? Or do you want income that is consistent, even perhaps maybe guaranteed or on the conservative side, never to go away? right? Most people, when they project themselves forward into a retirement scenario, they want income that is certain, income that is close to guaranteed if they can get it. But what's the issue with multi-unit housing for retirement income? Well, if you own 1, 2, 3, even 4 or 5 units or rental properties, you are not close to being a real estate mogul, right? And let's just take, if you own 4 rental properties leading up to retirement, you've been working your regular job and now you're retired and you're looking at your rental properties as, oh, great, they're all paid off and I get to live on the income. It's going to be great, right? Well, now you're not working and you're living on the rental income. What happens if you get a water heater blow up on one of the units? How about a slab leak? $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 slab leak. How about an air conditioning unit for $6,000? How about, insert name of possible real estate, problem, right? Any one of those things happen to you, and they happen all the time. But if you've only got 4 properties, and you get one air conditioning unit go bad on one of your units, doesn't that perhaps wipe out most, if not all, of your net income proceeds, right? So net income, that's one thing. Net income that you get to keep without risk, oh, that's a whole nother situation. What if we have another real estate recession or recession in general, and people lose their job and now they're not paying you? Here in California, people can live and they can manipulate the system to live in a rented house without paying rent for months and months and months and months. You could be sitting on a piece of property with no income for so long in the state of California, right? But that's not even my biggest concern. My biggest concern is, what if something goes wrong on the property? What if we have a slab leak, a water heater? What if we have an air conditioning unit go bad, right? Those are situations where your net income could be wiped out for a long period of time. So unless now you want to get into having 10 or 20 properties or 20 units where you now have enough to squeak out a good rate of return, because it's very unlikely that you're going to have a major problem on multiple units at the same time, having real estate as a retirement income source can be significantly risky. So keep that in mind. This headline sounds all cool, have real estate for your rental income and retirement. Yeah, but you've got to ask the question, does it work under most any condition? Well, you could have some pretty negative situations come up, and wow, that rental real estate does not work. You could be upside down quick, okay? So that's the first one. The second one, please forgive me, this is going to be a little wonky, but I want to make sure that you're aware of it. You're going to hear this in the news media, financial news. You're going to hear it from financial advisors. You're just going to hear this term a lot over the next several months. You're going to hear discussions about the fiduciary ruling. The Department of Labor, our federal Department of Labor, was able to facilitate this new fiduciary rules change that is coming, okay? And I was at a recent conference where a panel of financial industry experts discussed this new fiduciary rules and how it will take effect in 2017 and how it will affect financial advisors and our clients. Now, just for the record, let me give you some background on the fiduciary definition, okay? Back a long ways ago, investment advisors were bound to a fiduciary standard that was established in 1940 as part of the Investment Advisor Act of 1940, a long time ago. They are regulated by SEC and the state securities regulators, both, and they are held to a fiduciary standard that requires advisors to put their clients' interest above their own. Now, some speculate that the Investment Advisor Act of 1940 was, largely driven by, the effects of the Great Depression and so forth, and coming out of all that. So we had new regulations that would put some strict oversight on financial advisory community, and in many cases that was completely required. I mean, there was all kinds of horror stories way back when. Now, the fiduciary standard again says advisors must put their clients' needs above their own interest. And I personally have always operated that way. That's just a standard practice in whatever I do. I follow the golden rule in my own way, and I say it this way. If I put my client's wallet first, my wallet will be fine. And that's my take on the golden rule, that if I just put your wallet first, mine will be just fine, as long as I do it in that order. So the fiduciary rule is something that I, as a certified financial planner professional, I have to live by that rule as just a matter of standard practice as a CFP, but I've lived by that rule, and I think most people live by that golden rule. Most people are just good people. But this fiduciary rule is going to now start to cover the activities of financial advisors who are not certified financial planners, who are not what are called investment advisor representatives or registered investment advisors. So the big change is this fiduciary rule is going to start encompassing and covering a lot more people in the financial advisory community. So it's a major shakeup. A lot of people who are not certified financial planner types, for example, are nervous, and what's it going to mean and how's it going to change? Those who are certified financial planner types, that's why I say that you're going to hear about it a lot, this fiduciary word. You're going to hear a lot of people on, I guess you'd say, my side of the table, certified financial planners. I am a fiduciary. You're going to hear that a lot, okay, because this new rule takes effect next year in 2017, okay? So while we were at this conference, though, another advisor and I were talking, and he basically asked me what I thought about, and in his words, this harsh new regulations. And he said this: it's just another example of the government making it harder for financial advisors to make a living and help our clients. Well, my take on it is a bit different. Because notice what he said. It's just another example of the government making it hard. Whoa, wait a minute. Wait just a second. So this is my take on it. Full disclosure, stop right there. This is my opinion, okay? I asked him this question. What does it take for Congress or the Senate to pay attention to an issue? They've got so many things that are out there. What does it take for them to pay attention to an issue? What does it take for lawmakers to write a new law? Well, after a little bit, I said, it takes money and influence, right? It takes money and influence. Even if you're trying to fight cancer, right? Well, if it's not affecting enough people, there's not going to be enough money behind it, and therefore there's not enough money to lobby Washington or drug companies or whoever needs to be lobbied to fight that terrible disease. So in order to get something really to the forefront of a discussion, to get lawmakers to pay attention, you've got to have lobbyists and you've got to have industry influence, right? Well, if you follow the money, this is what I said to the gentleman I was talking to, follow the money. What group or groups benefit from strict new regulations that make it harder for non-financial planner types, for non-investment advisor types to conduct their business? Well, of course, if you think about it, it's going to be the organizations that I belong to as a certified financial planner. Don't you think those organizations would benefit if there were more strict regulations on those people who are not certified financial planners, right? If you were a money manager, an investment advisory company that was already held to that 1940s fiduciary standard, don't you think you would benefit if that fiduciary standard had to cover more people and perhaps maybe even had some people not eligible to help the client that you might want to help, right? Because now that fiduciary standard, you control that opportunity, right? So if you follow the money back to who benefits, well, who then has the money to lobby Washington and to lobby the government and regulatory bodies to get this kind of thing passed, right? And just so you know, I don't think it's sinister. I don't think at all that it's a big negative. I think that if you have a cause that you personally believe in, you have the ability to belong to an organization that promotes your cause and gets out there and lobbies on your behalf with your state or your federal representatives, that's the way the government works. That's fine. But this idea that this person I talked to said, well, it's the government making it harder for financial advisors to make a living. Well, yes, I guess that's true in part, but how did that issue truly come in front of lawmakers in the first place? I believe, personally, I'm not a conspiracy kind of guy, but I believe that was driven by those who have the money and the influence to put that issue forward, to really promote it and to lobby for these changes, right? That's how things get done, okay? What I'm trying to say here, though, is you're going to have a lot of CFP types, a lot of investment advisor types who are talking about the fiduciary rules change, who are going to use that fiduciary rules change as a point of marketing and differentiation. When the reality is you might have a financial advisor that you work with today who has always treated you with the golden rule, has always put your interest first and their interest second. But this new rules change might make it difficult for them to continue to be in that financial advisory capacity without making some significant changes to the way they do business. Okay? But here's the thing. Investment advisors and certified financial planners, okay, they still have a compliance, regulatory oversight, and regulatory departments that they have to answer to. So I want to share something with you to help you, again, put everything in perspective about this fiduciary rules change. It's a big deal, and you're going to hear a lot about it, but it's not just that simple. Those of you who've heard, I spoke, a number of episodes about bias, that there's always bias in just about everything. If you're talking to your lawyer, he or she has a bias. If you talk to your doctor, they have a bias. If you talk to your accountant, they have biases. I personally have biases. There's no way to avoid bias in any kind of an engagement. It's just naturally built in. But if you look for one particular bias in your financial advisor selection, I would suggest that that's a great place to start. So the bias that I encourage people to look for is find someone whose bias is specifically in favor of you first. Sounds like the fiduciary standard, right? Yes. So find someone whose bias is in favor of you first. Whether they're a fiduciary or certified financial planner professional or not, there are ways that you can test that. You can ask a lot of questions and verify that that advisor is putting your interest first, okay? But we as financial advisors, whether we are under the fiduciary standard or not, we are out there and we are under a lot of scrutiny by regulatory bodies. So there's lots of regulators that are looking to protect the consumer, you, the listeners, the consumers, and there's so many rules, and the penalties sometimes can be very strict, very harsh. So financial advisors will usually have a department of people, just fantastic, patient people who review their material. Like I have a team of people who review my podcast to make sure that my transcripts are reviewed and everything is in line with all of the regulations that we have to deal with. And if I had to do that on my own, I mean, who knows how many possibilities that I would have of making a mistake. They really keep me in the guide rails that we as a financial advisors have to stay in, right? But we're talking about this idea of bias, right? That regardless of whether there's a fiduciary standard, everybody has a bias, including the companies that we financial planners represent, right? So let me share, and I want to give you an example of this, right? Because it sounds good just to say, work with a fiduciary and you'll be okay. Well, wait a minute. Maybe that fiduciary has a standard that their bias is in favor of you. But what if the company that handles their regulatory oversight, what if the company has a bias that is specifically in favor of the company first? What if the company has a bias? And I share this story with you in my segment 2, which is my client and listener questions. So I got this question that came through. Very simple question, and it tied in really well with today's episode. The question was, what happened to episode 58? Just as simple as can be, right? Where's episode 58? It goes 57, 59, right? Well, here's what happened. In episode 58, I shared some details of my work that I was doing with a client and his wife, this couple, and the names were kept anonymous to protect the client and to protect me, and I shared specific details. I went into great detail about how long it took me and the various different evaluations of assets and various accounts that it took for me to come to a recommendation that he should move one asset to another asset because I just couldn't find any redeeming quality worth telling him to keep this particular asset. Now, I am not going to say what that asset was because as I went through this detailed example of how I work with clients, I wanted it to be something as an education piece for you, the listener, to know that getting advice from a certified financial planner should not be a 30-second soundbite or a 1-minute clip. It's something that takes a long time. And I went through and I had a detailed explanation about how I approached the conversation. And it was a long process before I made any recommendation to get rid of this particular asset that this couple had. Okay. Now, fast forward, I get a note back from the compliance review team at a company that I use that said I needed to change this episode. I needed to remove a big chunk of this episode because it wasn't balanced and fair, and I needed to get rid of it. Okay, well, I didn't want to give the compliance department any extra work, so I just went in and deleted the whole episode because honestly, when I thought about it, the amount of redaction, the amount of deletion they were asking for really just would have made the episode sound weird. So it would have just sounded wrong. So to make things easier on everybody, I just removed the entire episode. But later, I asked for a detailed explanation. How could I have approached that discussion differently in a manner that would have been satisfactory? Because I just wanted to make sure that in the future that might come up. You know, listeners ask questions, clients ask questions, I ask questions, right? So I didn't get an answer. And I asked again, and I didn't get an answer. And then here's what I find out kind of anecdotally behind the scenes, that this particular company sells a lot of that particular type of asset that I was suggesting that my client get rid of, that it just was wrong for them. It really was honestly wrong for them. But that my company that I was, talking to, they sell a lot of that kind of asset, that particular financial product, and they just may not have really liked the negative tilt that I had on my comments. Right? Okay. That set me back and said, wow, that's interesting, because my discussion and my recommendation was solely for the benefit of the client. And as a matter of fact, my initial recommendation, before I dug even a little bit deeper, was specifically going to be bad for me, because I was so close to suggesting that they keep this particular asset, but I did a little more digging on it and found out there were some items that we had not asked about. And gosh, once I understood those specific details, I couldn't say anything other than that this couple needed to get rid of this thing, right? And so my heart, my fiduciary standard was completely in the right place. Unfortunately, this is, again, anecdotally, because I never heard this officially from anyone, but I hear that this company and maybe other companies in these departments, they have their own biases built in that say, hey, we really don't want you talking negative about this, that, or the other thing, right? So when the advisor is out there with a fiduciary standard to live up to, you have to make sure that you remember that we as advisors, we are out there and we rely on these companies to help us stay in the guidelines and follow the regulations. But those companies, whether it be the company that I was working with at the time, it's all of them. They have their own agendas and their own biases. That's going to come back to the advisor in some way, some connection, just so that you know it's possible, okay? It did not change the direct recommendation, and it would not and will not change the direct recommendation to my client, but it did affect what I could tell you about. It affected my position to be able to communicate with you, my podcast listeners. So that's what happened to episode 58, okay? Episode 58 kind of disappeared, and it won't come back. I mean, maybe I'll record a special episode 58, secret sauce, and the podcast episode will say, this episode was removed. But I don't think I'll be replacing episode 58. But now I do understand better that this particular product, this particular type of an asset is one that I just can't talk about on my podcast. I have to just talk around it and say, hey, that isn't going to work. So what I thought is I'm going to give you an example. I want to give you an example, put it into perspective this way. Let's say that I was a salesman for a national electronics manufacturer, and I want to increase my sales of DVD players. So DVD sales are my primary target, and I'm putting together a full-on marketing campaign and a sales plan so that I can sell more DVD players. And so I plan on publishing an article that details the differences between CD players and DVD players. Now, the article will point out the significant advantages of DVD technology versus CD. Now, although the company that I work with as a sales rep, they know that my comparison is accurate, spot on accurate, the advertising review department does not approve my advertisement because the company says, hey, we sell a lot of CD players and they just don't want the negative press, okay? They don't want the negative press. So I can choose to pursue the advertising campaign all by myself and have to, deal with it alone and whatever might come, or I probably can't because in that case I work for this particular company, so I'm probably stuck where I just can't do the advertising campaign that I was thinking about. So being a fiduciary, it's an important thing, but don't be misled necessarily. Advisors are still controlled by the industries who produce the products and help us manage this myriad of regulations and things that we have to deal with, right? The fiduciary standard is truly important, but we're all still part of the industry, and the industry writes the rules essentially. So we have to live by that, okay? So keep that in mind and take everything that you're going to hear about the fiduciary rules. Know that I believe that they are important. And for the record, to my compliance department that is listening and reading this particular episode, I totally appreciate their support. I appreciate what they do because trying to manage the regulatory environment, oh my gosh, it's just, like I said, it would make my head explode. So without them, it would be very difficult to be out there trying to bring you these perspectives and these hopefully thought-provoking conversations. And that's where I want to leave it today. with my standard call to action. When I started this episode, I mentioned the 4% rule and the Monte Carlo simulation. And I have got to tell you, I am surprised that I have not gotten more calls and emails than I have. I appreciate all the calls and emails. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you, those listeners who have called in to ask for your own income analysis. But I am so surprised. And I'm here to I wish I could just reach out there and just give you a quick shake that if you have not had a retirement income conversation with your financial advisor, I dare you, I challenge you. If you think you're bulletproof because you have a ton of money in the bank, I've got all kinds of money in my investment account, I challenge you. Go into your financial advisor and ask them what your retirement income analysis looks like. If they say anything more than 4%, red flag, wrong. If they say 4%, you're going to be disappointed. I don't care if you have $500,000 or $5 million. Multiply that by 4%, and that's the conversation I want to help you avoid. So this is your wake-up call. Consider me grabbing you and shaking you on the treadmill, wherever you're listening to this, driving your car. Contact me. I absolutely love turning the light on at the end of that retirement tunnel. I will help you see that it is possible to have 30 to 60% more retirement income than the Monte Carlo simulation and the 4% rule. I know how to do it. That's my specialty. That's my passion. I'm Kraig Strom. I'm the income engineer. I'm challenging you. Get over to Personal Pension Radio, get your retirement income report, and request your own retirement income analysis. I'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. We took notes for you, so if you missed any part of the show, you can find a full transcript of each episode at personalpensionradio.com. Be sure to download your free retirement income crisis report at personalpensionradio.com. While you're at it, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening. Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.